Hello everyone, this is Miss Barron, and today I'm going to go over how we will be approaching our dissection unit. In this unit, you will be exploring two specimens, first the earthworm, and then the second one, the pig or the fetal pig. Now, of course, we cannot do an actual dissection because we are not in class. Therefore, we are going to be doing a type of virtual dissection, which I'm going to explain how you guys will be doing. So there are two pages that you will have to complete, and the layout for the earthworm and the pig are both the same. So we're going to start with the earthworm because it is a lot more simple, and that way once you get this down, then the pig will be much easier. So the two pages that you will have to be completing in your OneNote are the earthworm functions and the earthworm labeling. Same thing for the pig. When we get to this, you will be doing the pig functions and the pig labeling. And those are the two pages that you need to complete. You have a video that you're going to be using to complete both the functions and the labeling, which I'll show you how to do the labeling for. And then you also have this resource as well to help you with the labeling for the most part. There really is not much in here about the functions. So for this dissection video, it tells you to watch from this point to this point. So from the beginning to about 7:30, and then starting again at 14:20 to the end of the video. That time in between is really just the narrator dissecting the organism, and he isn't identifying anything during that time. So in the beginning of the video, I'll show you guys this. He will use a model. So it's literally like this big plastic model of a worm. You're not going to be using that as part of the labeling. Also in the video, he does discuss functions, and you can use those to complete this chart right here for the functions. But if you're having a hard time getting some of them from the video, you can always use the internet and Google the functions. However, he addresses pretty much all of the functions in the video except for maybe a few. And if you want more detail on those functions, then I would suggest going to the internet and Googling them. And how I would approach this, and you guys can do this either way you want. Maybe you want to do all the functions first, and then you want to do the labeling. Another way you can also do this is to do both at the same time. So do the label something and then go back and fill in a function, or fill in a function and then go back and label. So it's just however you want to approach this. So for the dissection video, you can play it here in your OneNote, but I'm going to actually open mine in an internet browser just because that's my preference, so I can see things a little bit more clearly. So in the beginning of the video,
today we're doing an earthworm.
This is the model. So you are not going to be snipping and using this part of the video for any of the labeling. So again, if you go up until about 7:30, that's when he's actually going to start doing the dissection. So I'm going to skip ahead to around this point, and notice that he's starting to do the dissection. He has already gone through labeling a couple of different structures, and I'm going to actually fast forward. I think this is also a good place to start, is around 15:37. This is when he's going to start identifying the anatomical parts that you're going to need for the labeling.
And the first thing I want to show you here, in case it gets destroyed, you can see these white structures right here.
Also, guys, I do note that in the video, he is not wearing gloves, which is not a good science practice. When you are ever dissecting an organism, you should make sure that you are wearing gloves.
Got to hold this down just a little bit. Maybe we can get a close-up shot of this. And you can see the two little white structures right there at the tip of the pin. Those two white structures are the brain. Eventually, the nerve cord ends in those two white structures. That is the brain of the earthworm there, not quite as big as yours. Now, let's go through the different parts here. The mouth is the very opening at the very anterior tip.
So notice that he just said he labeled two things. He told you where the brain was and he told you where the mouth is. So during the video, what you can do is you can pause it and then you can use your snipping tool. I like to pin my snipping tool to my taskbar just because it's easier to use. And then I would take a screenshot of this and I'm going to go to edit and copy, or you can hit Control-C. And I'm going to go back into my OneNote. Again, you can be playing the video here as well if that is your preference. And I'm going to go into the labeling here. So you're going to, as the directions say, in this space, snip pictures from the dissection video and label those structures. You're going to have multiple pictures. You don't want to label too many things in one picture because it becomes a little bit crowded. And make sure all your structures are clearly labeled. So if you don't have very good handwriting, I would suggest maybe typing. And here's the checklist right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my first picture. I'm going to hit Control V, and or you can do File, and you could right click and you can do Paste as well. So the one structure that he labeled was the mouth. So in my OneNote, I would go to the drawing tools and I would go here, and exactly where he's pointing is exactly where I'm going to point. And I'm going to label that the mouth. Now, again, if you don't have good handwriting, I would suggest typing this. If you also want to make it look a lot nicer, you can do a straight line as well with the Shapes tool. There is also the ruler as well. That way you guys can get nice straight lines. I think that will look a lot more presentable. All right, so I labeled the mouth and then I would check that off. I'm going to go back to using my keyboard here for a second. And I'm going to just check that off. And he's going to go ahead and label a couple more things. So I would label a couple more things in this picture. Again, you don't want it to be overcrowded though. And then in the functions piece, I would go in and I would write, what is the function of the mouth? So he doesn't really say that, but some of these are kind of self-explanatory. This would be where food enters the digestive tract or system. And this is anterior, which they're going to be using a lot of different words such as anterior, posterior, dorsal, ventral, and these are just anatomical terms to describe where things are in an organism. And again, you can do all this first, you can do all this first, you can do them kind of simultaneously. It is up to you. But this is what you're going to be doing for the earthworm. And then you're going to do the same thing for the pig later on. And again, the video is here to help you. And then you also have this as a resource too if you need some more help with that labeling.